Hello everybody and welcome to another Destiny build video. Today we're going to be trying out a brand new build for the Warlock class here in a minus 50 power activity, giving ourselves 0 buffs. So this is going to show the ultimate truth of this build, and as you can see, it is going to completely eliminate. It can suspend, it can just clear out entire rooms of enemies, it will scorch, which will also cause ignitions. It is pretty insane. And of course, this build is so strong that if anything should go wrong, you should have your super ready to go. And that will be good enough to help bail you out. You'll also have Transcendence a ton, because you're going to be dealing a ton of strand and solar damage. So you're going to have a ton of Transcendence, you're going to have a ton of abilities, and I do mean a ton of abilities. You're going to also have a ton of Threadlings, and just a ton of everything else. So without further ado, let me show you how to replicate this build. To start off, we're going to begin with our exotic of choice, which is Solipsism. Our prismatic bond here is going to be with Spirit of Inmost Light, one of the most desired perks in all of prismatic class items. Obviously, this one's going to make so that when we use an ability, it will empower the other two abilities, granting them improved energy regeneration. Now, we're going to pair that with Spirit of the Swarm, because this is going to allow our Tangles to spawn Threadlings, and obviously the more Threadlings, the better. For your stats, you're just going to want to have as high of a melee, grenade, and class stat that you can have. The reason why is because this build is entirely based around ability spamming. We want as many Threadlings from our Threadling grenades as we want. Arcane Needles are extremely powerful, and even our Phoenix Dive is going to create more Threadlings and also heal us. So we really are going to want our melee, grenade, and class stat up to as high as possible. A 100 is around the goal for all of them that you're going to want them to get them up to, but having them around an 80 and higher is also a very good choice. For the weapons in this build, there is actually no concrete ones you have to have. Now, the ones I like to go with is little weapons that can heal me, such as Yeartide Apex, maybe if you have a perk such as Chaos Reshaped, or if you have a weapon that has something like Heal Clip, like Drain can run. This is also a very good perk to have. This one has also got Incandescent, allowing me to spread even more Scorch to all nearby enemies when I get a kill. So this one's going to help play into my role. So if you can have Incandescent or even Burning Ambition and like Heal Clip, that is going to be really good. I highly recommend running a solar weapon with, like I said, Heal Clip or something in your energy slot. And for your heavy, you can technically go ahead and use whatever you like. Yet again, there is no weapon that makes this build amazing. Like, there's no exact weapon you need to synergize with this build. So I actually paired it with Leviathan's Breath. And this is going to allow me to like take out champions and bigger enemies really easily. It's also going to stun unstoppables, and it's going to allow me to make enemies volatile. So this is just a nice heavy weapon to have, but of course you can use whatever you would like. And for your kinetic slot is the same principle as the other two. You can put on whatever you would like to put on. Personally, I like putting on a stasis weapon, even if it's obviously not my main, and that's going to be because of an artifact mod we'll get into later, but it will allow us to get frost armor, which is just always nice to be able to get, especially in higher end content. Now for the subclass, we're going to start over here with our super, which is going to be the Song of Flame. This is a very nice super to have on. It's very fun, it's very good for ad clearing, and this is going to be a great one to pair with this build. And we're going to move over here to our class ability, because we're going to be pairing it with Phoenix Dive. Phoenix Dive is going to allow us to descend to the ground while we're in the air, and it's going to create a burst of solar light that will cure nearby allies and including ourselves. This is going to help us get back some health, which is why we're going to want to use this one. It's a very nice one to have, and it's going to pair very well with our aspects, which we'll get into in literally just a few seconds. For your jump, go ahead and use whichever jump you're most comfortable with. For your melee, you're going to want Arcane Needle. Arcane Needle is going to unravel targets, which is going to help us create Tangles. Arcane Needle is also probably the strongest melee for the Warlock Prismatic class, if we're being honest. And for our grenade, we're going to want Threadling grenades. Obviously, the entire idea around this build is going to be a ton of Threadlings. So Threadling grenade is going to be a very good option, and probably the best and most helpful option for all grenades as well in Prismatic for this build. Now for our aspect, we're going to start over here with Weaver's Call. Weaver's Call is going to make us so when we activate our class ability, which will be our Phoenix Dive, it will weave 3 Threadlings and deploy them, and deploy any Threadlings we have perched on us forward. Dealing damage and defeating targets will also generate perched Threadlings, so we're going to be creating a ton of those Threadlings, and with one Phoenix Dive, we could unleash up to 8 Threadlings in a single moment. So it's going to be very, very helpful. Now we're going to pair this with Hellion. So when we activate our Phoenix Dive, it will summon a solar turret that will lob flaming projectiles. Those targets that are hit by this is going to get scorched. So this is going to help us keep a ton of ad clear going on. This is such a strong build, and it's so nice to play into that solar with strand kind of vibe, and it's really, really fun. Now for our fragments, we're going to start with the most essential one, Facet of Protection. This is a staple in basically every single prismatic build ever made. It is the best one because it gives you a damage resistance bonus when you are surrounded by enemies. Then we're going to pair it with Facet of Purpose. So picking up an Orb of Power will grant us Restoration. Restoration is obviously going to be very nice because picking up that orb is going to give us a big chunk of time where we are just going to be able to consistently heal, even when we take damage, and it's very, very nice. Next, we're actually going to use Facet of Awakening. Facet of Awakening is going to make us that when we rapidly defeat targets with light or darkness damage or super final blows, it will generate an elemental pickup of the matching damage type. So this is going to help us create more tangles than ever if we're using a ton of strand damage, like the strand is actually what gets the final blow. If our solar gets the final blow, we'll be creating some fire sprites, which is obviously really nice still, because that will refund us grenade energy when we pick it up, and obviously that's pretty amazing because that's going to be more Threadling grenades. And of course, it will also create any other elemental pickups depending on what types you put into your heavy and kinetic slot. So it is pretty nice. Next, we're going to run Facet of Mending. This is going to make it so that grenade final blows will cure you. So this means that when our little Threadling grenades go out and get a kill, specifically the Threadlings from the grenade, then it's going to cure us, which means it will give us a nice little chunk of health back. So we're actually going to get health back on a literal kill from a Threadling grenade. It's pretty nice to have. While Transcendent, though, you'll obviously have a little bit of a different grenade, but those grenade kills, those Transcendent grenade kills, will actually give you an even stronger cure. And last but not least, we're going to use Facet of Ruin. Facet of Ruin is going to increase the size and damage of the burst of a solar ignition. So this is going to be a pretty good one because we're obviously going to be applying a ton of Scorch, which is going to lead to solar ignitions. So why not increase the area of effect so that we can hit more targets in a wider area? Every good build has a set of good armor mods, so let's check them out. For this build, you're going to want on your helmet a Harmonic and a Void Siphon, or the 2-element siphon mods that match your main weapon and then your secondary weapon. Since my main weapon is Solar, which is Drang, and my main secondary weapon, which was Leviathan's Breath, is Void, that's why I have those two on. Now for the third spot, you're going to want to just put on whatever you would like. Whether it's Special Ammo Finder, whether it's Dynamo, Heavy Ammo Finder, Ashes to Assets, whatever it may be, you can put that on. For your gauntlets, you're going to want to put on a heavy-handed and a firepower. This is going to make it so that your powered melee final blow, which will be Arcane Needle, and your grenade final blow, which will be your Threadlings from the grenade, will create an orb of power on a kill. This is obviously going to be pretty great because it's going to give us restoration when we pick it up, including some other benefits too from future mods. And we're going to want to put on a grenade kickstart. This way, when we use our Threadling grenade, it will consume our armor charges and give us some Threadling grenade energy back. So we're going to want to have that one on. Now for the chest piece, you're going to want to put on the resistance mods that match the activity that you're doing. The activity that I was playing had a plus 50% intake to arc damage. So I put on 3 arc resistance mods, so that way I can almost nullify that entire difference. For your boots, you're going to want an elemental charge. This is a pretty key one here. This is going to make it so that when you collect a Fire Sprite, Ionic Trace, Stasis Shard, or Void Breach, or destroy a Strand Tangle, it will give you an escalating chance to give you an armor charge. Obviously, that armor charge is going to be very beneficial for our grenade kickstart. So the reason this is going to be really good is because we're going to be creating a ton of tangles. And of course, one of our entire ideas of this build is destroying those tangles for more Threadlings, thanks to Spirit of the Swarm on our Solipsism. So this is going to be a really good one. We're also going to be creating a bunch of fire sprites potentially thanks to artifact mods. And let's not forget Facet of Awakening. So we're kind of getting like a double whammo with all of these. And then after that, you're going to want an Absolution and an Insulation. This is going to make it so that when you pick up an orb, not only will we get restoration thanks to Facet of Purpose, but we're also going to get a ton of ability cooldown back on all of our abilities and a little extra to our Phoenix Dive. And we're going to pair those with our mods on Solipsism, which is going to be distribution and outreach, so that when we use that Phoenix Dive, it will reduce all ability cooldowns. And not only that, but it will reduce a little more on our needles, our arcane needles. You can also swap this to bomber if you like, so that way you get a little bit back on Threadling grenades. And then we're going to pair that, last but not least, with a Reaper mod. This way, when we use that Phoenix Dive, it will confirm that our next final blow with a weapon will spawn an Orb of Power. Now, this build does take advantage of a bunch of artifact mods. So without further ado, let me show you which ones you're going to want to have on, starting with our second column here, Threadling Proliferation. Dealing strand weapon damage will have a chance to spawn a Threadling. Now, I know you're kind of probably thinking like, hey, you didn't have any strand weapons on, and you'd be right. But you can, obviously, like I said, remember that there is no difference. There's no set concrete weapon you have to have on. So what that means is that you can put on a strand weapon, whether for your heavy slot or your kinetic slot. Meaning this is going to be a great one that you're going to want on, so that way you can create even more Threadlings. Now, obviously, there isn't really any other mods in this column that are even really that great, which is why I take it even if there's obviously, I'm not using a strand weapon. Another option, though, you could do maybe is going to be the Flame, Fiber, and Freeze, which will combine the Solar and Strand and the Solar and Stasis Siphon mods. This isn't bad if you're like me using a Solar and Stasis weapon, then this would also be a pretty good option. For the third column here, we're going to go with Fever and Chill. Rapid precision hits with solar weapons will grant us Radiant. This is going to help us also take out anti-barrier champions. And obviously, rapid precision hits with stasis weapons will grant Frost Armor. As I said earlier, this is why I like putting a stasis weapon to pair with my solar weapon in my energy and kinetic slots. This will allow me to get a little bit of Frost Armor if I think I'm going to need it. I can swap over, take a couple hits to the precision, and get some Frost Armor. And obviously, solar weapon, which was our main, well, my main, it could be yours too if you're using a heal clip weapon, is going to also give you radiance. That way you'll deal even more damage with your weapons. Then I'm going to pair it with Elemental Benevolence. This one is really nice because obviously we can give an elemental buff in Cure when we use our class ability, and this will actually refund class ability energy when we do so, since our Phoenix Dive will give Cure to nearby allies. We're also going to put on Refresh Thread, so that when we pick up an elemental pickup matching our subclass, which will be Fire Sprites, or a Tangle if we were on Strand, but we're not, so just Fire Sprites, it will grant us energy to our least charged ability. Now, I know you might be going, well, that's all great and all, but, you know, Facet of Awakening is only going to give us so much. That's right, but we're going to pair it with Elemental Coalescence, and we'll get into that in just a second. But we're also going to use this very, very, very important mod here, Pack Tactics. This is going to make it so that dealing damage with Threadlings will increase Threadling damage. And at maximum stacks, it's also going to allow our Threadlings to stun unstoppable champions. That's obviously a very, very nice addition. Now, coming over here to Elemental Coalescence in the fourth column is going to be a very key one. Defeating targets will have a chance to create an elemental pickup matching our super. That's going to be Fire Sprites. So this is going to work hand in hand with Facet of Awakening. And obviously, we're going to use those Fire Sprites to give us Grenade Energy, which is Threadling Grenades. But it's also going to give us a little bit of energy to our least charged ability when we pick it up thanks to Refresh Thread. So that's going to make it even better. And in the final column here, we're going to go with Radiant Shrapnel. Radiant Shrapnel is dealing sustained weapon damage with Radiant, or defeating a Scorch target will cause the weapon, well, with a weapon, will cause the target to release solar projectiles that deal damage and Scorch on an impact. This is a very, very good one. This one's why pairing it with solar weapons that get Radiant from Fever and Chill is so good. That's why I recommend running heal clip weapons or incandescent with it, those type of weapons. And then you're going to want to pair it with Tangled Web. Creating a tangle by defeating a strand debuff target will suspend nearby combatants. Obviously, we're going to be using a ton of strand damage. We're also going to be applying some, obviously, strand debuffs because we're going to be creating a ton of tangles. Our Arcane Needle will do it all. So this is going to be a very, very good option because we are going to be creating tangles. So this one will allow us to suspend enemies around that tangle creation point. So with all that put together, that is how you make this build. It's absolutely insane that I can even run something at minus 50 power with no buffs and literally basically just walk through it. And it is literally insane. It pairs so well with everything you have on. Like I said, Leviathan's Breath is a good option, but Weapons with Heal Clip is so nice because you're going to heal yourself. Transcendence just adds another level to this build. Obviously, that's obviously something that happens with every prismatic build, but it's very, very nice to have. And of course, you're going to create so many tangles and even other elemental pickups thanks to our mods and perks and everything of that sort. It's going to be so amazing. We're just going to get so many Threadlings. That's pretty much the entire idea of this build. It's just ability spam. When you get an ability, throw that ability. From your needles to your Threadling grenades, and especially to your Phoenix dive, which will create even more Threadlings. I mean, we basically turned every ability into a Threadling ability, and it's pretty much insane. So if you want to be able to take this build and go ahead and do all this, you can right now by recreating this build. It's going to allow you to go through, as you can see, minus 50 difficulty content is incredibly strong. With all of that being said, that's the end of the video. Let me know in the comments below what you think about this build. And while you're down there, if you like this video, then why not hit the like button, subscribe, comment, share, all that good jazz. Because it tells me you like the video. And why not join the family and stick around? We're obviously going to have a ton of more build videos coming up, so why not stick around and check them out? With all of that, though, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, I will see you around the tower.